these are the people that we have to hit. These areas have the most potential to call in, and it contributes to a conversion or to a lead. And that was the most important thing for us, is leads and conversions. It really wasn't about like broad reach. It was about narrowing in on the target audience.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Fast Forward the Conversation. Today, I think we've got a really cool storyline to dive into, thinking about the home improvement category and a franchise network that we're working with that has influence over about 200 markets in the United States, and some work that we're doing. Kimberly is with me here from our team down in Dallas, and she's going to give us some unique perspective on just where we started with the client, some of the challenges I think that they were uniquely incurring, and just being in the franchise space as a whole, and then how we're thinking about effectively that playbook. Again, it's a unique category going through some very unique times as well, just given COVID. And I think we're going to be able to dive in here and, again, always unpack the how behind some of our work. So, Kimberly, welcome. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So with this client, uniquely, where did we start, right? Where's some of the work in terms of where did we start to sink our teeth into? I know that they've had, some work from a market expertise. They've been spread a little thin in terms of some broadcaster offerings, some digital, maybe being even a little laissez-faire in terms of the management. Where did we dig in from a team perspective to start really working the ratchet of savings of their dollars, and really from an efficiency standpoint?
Well, we really started with looking at a media audit of what they had been doing in the past. A new client had decided to buy this franchise in January, so he didn't have a expanded relationship with the previous agency for a long amount of time, so he didn't have a lot of historical information of what had been done in the past. So what we wanted to do was kind of dig in and start looking and pulling information to see where they have been in the past, so we can determine where we should go for the future. So what we did was we looked at the media that they were running in the past, and they were really heavy in print, and they were really heavy in broadcast for some of the markets that they were running media in. And they were running media everywhere. So it was more about brand awareness, and they were just looking at it from a market-wide perspective and not really digging into the actual like service areas and zip codes, and really kind of playing in with digital as well. So what we wanted to do was kind of bring them into where their audience was consuming media. And that was pretty much our beginning point and kind of some of the challenges that we faced up front.
Right. So with some of that work in the audit, I know we were able to dive into, effectively taking a look right away, I think, at the broadcast front, right? And our team of experts there. Would you speak to or give the audience some insight into just the homework that was done there? And then what did we do about it, right? I know one of the storylines there is effectively taking a look at expanding some of the audience, improving upon the TRPs that we were delivering effectively for the same money. How did we arrive there?
So we took a look at what they were paying for the TRPs in the market. So one of their markets was a smaller market, Waco. And so we wanted to kind of look at the programming, and we wanted to make sure they were on the right networks. So, the good news, they were on the right networks to really cover that area. The difference is the price that they were paying. They were actually running the same schedules that they were running a few years ago. And as you can imagine, things have changed year over year. And even with COVID, the way people are viewing media and viewing TV and viewership, all that has changed since then. So we really kind of dove into the cost that they were paying per spot, and with the day part mix. The day part mix they were running hadn't changed over the years, and the pattern had changed. So he was really interested in buying Prime. And in the past, his other agency was telling him that Prime was too high.
Too
So
expensive. Yep.
too expensive, exactly, too expensive. And so what we did was we already had relationships in that market because the good thing about our buyers is that they are market experts. We don't really break them out by clients because we want them to be market experts. And that's where we can get cost savings because of the volume of dollars that we're putting into that market, and we have those relationships with the local markets that we're able to get some efficiencies and some savings. And so we kind of scratched their whole day part mix and started looking at where was the most efficient place to target that audience, because that's the most important thing. It's where is the audience and where are they watching and what kind of programs they were watching. And so we were able to get lower rates by changing the demo up a little bit. Not that we're walking away from a 25 to 54 buying demo. What we did was we looked at the rates for buying a little bit older demo of 55 plus, and we noticed from the research and from the ratings that the 25 to 54 and the 55 plus audience in that particular market was watching the same programming. And so we were able to lower our pricing by buying a little bit older demo, and so we were able to afford about 15 to 20% in prime. So we were able to incorporate and make the client happy all in one just by doing our research and making sure that we put the most efficient buy ahead of them. I will say also for search, they was doing, they're running search, and we noticed that they were overspending in search. So what we did was we kind of focused on where they should be, focusing their keywords and not just letting the campaign run and optimize itself. It really takes someone just in the campaign every day, every week, looking and monitoring those costs per clicks and making sure that the right keywords. So it looked like they were just letting the campaign just run and overspend. And that was a way that we were able to get some efficiencies too, because we don't want to overspend monthly in search as well.
And that work in Google Ads was done in parallel, right, to some of the broadcast homework that we're doing. So, as we've got multiple different team members, and they're effectively all sitting at the same table, trying to repiece this puzzle together without increasing the budget at all in the process. Which it leads me to kind of my next point. You've touched on some of the efficiencies in the audit homework I do, which the audit piece is always really interesting. Every story we touch base on, I think, in every effective place we've been, we start with an audit, right, to uncover those efficiencies, better understand the audience, the customer journey. One of the things that I thought that was really interesting that you all did next was unpacking the opportunity areas in the marketplace to effectively do a plus up on digital. So if you've got the broad media covered and tremendous reach that's been effectively wrung out from the towel of being more efficient, could you talk to the partnership or the data partner we were able to utilize to provide some better visibility into, okay, where are the true opportunity areas in the marketplace for this plus up? And then what are we doing to leverage that information?
Well, so it was kind of twofold approach. So with the data side of it, we started with utilizing Simmons. So Simmons is our tool to help us understand the target audience, because that's where we have to kind of start first, is the target audience, and understand their behavior, their lifestyle, what what attitudes impact their purchasing decisions. So we started there to try to figure out in that local market, what is the audience doing in order to figure out where we go to target them. And then we started looking at zip codes and within their service areas. So we were given the service areas that they currently cover. So what we did was we looked at zip code targeting just in those zip codes, and then we layered on top of that homes that were 20 plus years old, because we felt that, based off the Simmons data, people are starting to think about replacing, doing home improvement at a certain time of the age of the home. And so we found that time to be pretty much 15 to 20 plus years. And so we said we need to go after those areas. So that's when we started layering on Simmons data, and then we layered on zip codes to find where are those homes located. And then that was
Yep.
going to go into our digital strategy. Figure out these are the people that we have to hit. These areas have the most potential to call in, and it contributes to a conversion or to a lead. And that was the most important thing for us, is leads and conversions. It really wasn't about like broad reach. It was about narrowing in on the target audience.
Yeah, it's terrific. It provides another layer of focus to the campaign, as a whole, which most notably I love. And from the client's perspective, knowing where to go fishing, where they're biting. I love the integration, right, of the home improvement category, trying to find those effectively high value targets, right? Their home is 15, 20, 25 years, which makes a ton of sense.
Yeah,
But until you go and dive into the data and actually map out where those zip codes are, where you'd like to create that influence, and creating it from a much more visible standpoint, I think it also has helped our client a tremendous amount, right? And just better understanding their marketplace and knowing, where they're sending their trucks out or where they're providing a quote, because
exactly.
we're influencing media on those same exact streets in those same exact smaller communities, right, that people are seeing over and over again. So it obviously has a much bigger impact, or will have a much bigger impact on the business as a whole.
Yes, exactly.
So the last piece of this equation, which I think is very interesting, is kind of future state, Kimberly, right? So we've talked about, effectively phase one, where we start with a lot of our client work, which is the audit. There's phase two, that, what are we doing right now to effectively be more impactful, dive deeper into the target audience? What does the future hold for us? What new ideas are we bringing to this business in terms of attaching not just media planning and execution, but also the business intelligence side of it? How are we helping to map that out?
Well, I mean, we knew that reporting is very important. I mean, even for all of our clients, reporting is important. Establishing what our business goals are up front is most important, and helps us on the back end when measuring results. We noticed that a lot of the old reporting and historical that we were getting from the client was a bunch of Excel sheets. I mean, it was thousands and thousands of lines of data that was hard to read. There wasn't any insights or highlight to the information. And so our future and our goal is to, how do we make that business insight come to light and have more visibility and be more digestible for the client. And so we're bringing to the table a program tool that we work in, which is Domo. And so with Domo, we are going to pull the data that the client already has and filter that into Domo so that he has an easier view of his business analytics and his results. So our client currently, leads and calls are very important to them. And so they work with a program called CallRail. And what CallRail does is it logs every call that comes into their location. So it puts phone numbers and address and names. It's just a lot of data that they need to know. And then we also tag our media so we know like what tactic drove that call. Which also helps us in the back end when we're thinking about test and learning and how do we apply our media in the future. So basically, we're going to take all that data that they provide us and layer that in with sales through their CMR tools, and filter that all into Domo so that we can get the full picture of what's happening on a day-to-day basis with their media. And whether we're reporting on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis, it gives us the tools and a quick view that we can see what's going on at all times, because we need to be able to pivot quickly. So if one tactic isn't working, we need to be able to, make changes fairly quickly.
Yeah,
And
I love the speed element of that, right? There's
yeah,
a lot of reasons why we get hired. Almost all of them, immediately they're connected to KPIs, business intelligence, business improvement. I think there's often a third one that plays out that is much more soft, in terms of the KPI, and that is making our clients' lives easier, right? And you talk
yeah,
about the speed of bringing the data from their sales lead volume and bringing that to life. I was on a call yesterday with a client, a CPG client. I find a lot of parallels here. They were talking about the value of our Domo business intelligence dashboard, connecting media to actual outputs. And I believe her comment was, or she phrased it around having a more intimate relationship with the data. Right before, there were just volumes and volumes and lines and spreadsheets, and it was there, but there was no discernible story.
Right.
And I thought that was very interesting. She brought up the intimacy of the data. I think it's going to play out right here in terms of our teams bringing that together from an intelligence perspective, because speed is a real thing. And if COVID hasn't already proven it out, right? I mean, if there are challenges, COVID has accelerated them in a
Yeah.
major way. And so the idea, number one, of having the speed there, but really, again, like, why do we get hired? Making the client's life easier is
Yeah.
a real thing in
Yes.
our business, and it's a tip of the cap to our account teams and our planners for making that happen. But I love it. I think it's a wonderful story. Again, it's unique in that the home improvement category, it's very, very focused on lead gen and volume. They need inbound
Yeah.
traffic. They need phone calls, right, to
Exactly.
make that business go. And with the
Yep.
scale of having a couple hundred markets, I think the really cool thing from our perspective now is having the buying power, which you mentioned from a national perspective, but then being able to take that rate visibility down to a local market and execute
Hmm.
it for a franchise, again, that has 200 markets across the country. I think is yielding a very nice playbook for us to take a look at and way to think about their business not only as a brand but in some of these other local markets around the country, which is wonderful.
Yeah. It really is. It really is. And I think he's very appreciative of, all the work that's been done to make his life easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Kimberly, thank you so much. I know you got a busy day. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you for the narrative in terms of the story and helping to bring this to life. And thank you for helping me fast forward the conversation. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, take
Thanks.
care.
You too.